Well, hello and good afternoon and welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Liz Saul. No, I'm not Neil Long. Neither am I Russ Kane either. Blimey, these boys, honestly, they don't half do things at the last minute. Got a phone call not even 2 hours ago from Neil, bless him, who you've probably seen from the socials. Oh, not really very well. Man flu, right? Anyway, Russ is doing his other day job, which is as a funeral celebrant. So we wish him well with that and hope it goes as well as can be expected. I hope you're all well today. I've got a couple of special guests who were equally short notice, have very kindly decided to come and join me this afternoon. I hope your week is going well so far. I'm on tenterhooks, quite literally, because at the moment I'm talking to you from the corner of my bedroom that has the strongest internet signal, which shouldn't sound like an awful lot in this day and age, but I've been on a temporary Wi-Fi dongle for almost 2 months, thanks to my broadband provider, which I know I've mentioned to Russ before now. It was supposed to sort it out by the middle of the September at the latest, and here we are more than a month later, but they're meant to be coming this afternoon to fit super fast fibre broadband. Absolutely brilliant. I will believe it when I see it, quite frankly, which is why I'm not naming names. I'm not telling you the companies involved or anything like that. I just want you to have everything crossed for me. And hopefully I will have proper superfast broadband by later on today. In the meantime, we seem to be holding out okay. And on that basis, I'm going to invite my first guest in and to join in with some midweek revelry, I think. And this is my very good friend, Nick Salfeld. Hello.
Oh, is there midweek revelry?
It is indeed.
Is there going to be revelry? Lunchtime drinking?
Not quite, unless you count coconut water.
Lovely. Yeah. I mean, I'm the same as you. I had my super fast broadband fitted last week, and I made it sound like a heart stent. Sorry, it's not like that at all. Man came round.
Does that mean you're radioactive or something?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
inside you.
Man came round with his spanner and did his thing. I've got more of a broadband dribble, so don't get your hopes up too high because it's never quite what is it. By the way, also for anyone who's actually watching, that really is my cat, and that really is his bottom. And I'm sorry, my cat's bottom. He sits up there for hours and hours at a time, very, very happily. And but no, he is real. That's not a model of a cat. He's just not moving, and that is his bottom. But there you go. That's all part of the attraction.
I was going to say. There's some entertainment there in itself. Cats are very fascinating, and I know Ronnie, your dear fur puss, provides hours of entertainment. I've seen it for myself. He's unusual actually for a cat in that he loves water, doesn't he?
Well, he likes sitting in the bath. I mean, I don't know why, but he likes sitting in the bath. He likes the plug.
I've seen him stick his head under the tap in the kitchen as well.
Yeah, no, I think I'm just genuinely not stimulating him enough at all because he will sit and look at the plug just for ages. Just
he's trying to tell you something.
Yeah, in Toy Story when the little thingies go, oh wow, it's so beautiful. He's like that with the plug. I don't know why. I don't know why. Can we discuss, by the way?
Yes.
Something you said earlier, and I scribbled it down. I know we're only 4 minutes in, but you said these boys, honestly, there's no
well,
need.
Clearly, I'm not including you in that because you're here.
I hope not.
And somebody else who's here.
Latent everyday sexism in reverse. I think it's
in reverse. It's shoes on the other foot now, isn't it?
Exactly.
I've got to say neither am I including Asa Don Brown, who has joined us from northeastern America, I do believe, who says, good day, Liz, you've got to love technology. Indeed. Yeah. We can put things on the moon and we can't seem to get a straight telephone signal on some occasions. Asa, check your direct messages because I pinged you a message as well if you'd like to come and join the discussion a little later on in the programme. Graham Pack says from Puss in Boots to Puss in Bath. Graham is our resident comedian. Eve Phantom says, hi, Liz, or hi, she says, generally. So, yes, hello to you. And I do think that you were talking about everyday sexism. Clearly you're here, so that's fine. But be honest, right? If you get a cold, it floors you as a bloke, generally, doesn't it?
Oh, hello. Okay,
Oh.
go on, I'll let you go on. Finish your sentence first. I wasn't going to go down this road, but there we go. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, us girls, we just sort of get on with it for the most part. Although I've got to wish Louise better, my cousin, because it's absolutely floored her. There's some bug going around, so it's even floored some of the girls. And my
I
stepmom
think
Jennifer as well. She's getting over her bug now, so you know.
genuinely, I think we all just get on with it. I think we all really, really try and get on with it. I will give you this though. I will give you this. I think
Mm.
as men, we kind of think of ourselves as thoroughbreds, thoroughbreds like horses or greyhounds. That's the great comment. Why do we
Oh
have a
yeah.
woman presenting today?
He clearly missed the beginning of the show that the boys, Graham, didn't bother to show up. Russ, for a very good reason. Neil's got man flu. There we go. All
There we
finished.
go.
Explanation. Carry on.
I genuinely think that men see themselves that we think of ourselves as thoroughbreds, as greyhounds. So basically, either we are racing at full pelt, 100%, 110%, or we are pretty much dead. So
That's rather
either
extreme.
well, yeah, exactly. It's all or nothing. So I think that that's a kind of man's attitude. If I have the slightest, cough or sniff, I'm like, I'm not at 100%. How am I going to deliver all the magic that I do every single day?
Now, tell us a bit more about your magic, because I know time is tight for you. You've given up part of
Oh,
your lunch hour.
well,
What do you do? What is your
what do
magic?
I do? Oh,
Sell Nick Salfeld to us.
why is it nobody wants that? For goodness sakes, no. I'm a
Oh,
writer.
well, they do. Yes,
I'm a
you're a
writer and a
writer.
producer
Excellent.
sort of person, and occasional DJ, that sort of thing. One of the joys of and I'm freelance, which is great because it means I get to work at home. What I have got to do, and I haven't done yet, is I haven't got one of those cool, sexy background thingies. So now everybody can tell that that is clearly the end of a bed, and I'm definitely in that bedroom. So I kind of need to work on the presentation bit of things. But yeah, no, I get to commute a maximum of 10 minutes, and sometimes it's only 10 seconds, and that's great. And pretend I know about. I only have one fundamental skill. I like sticking my nose into things and understanding how they work.
Excellent.
So, and it turns out I can make money out of that. So that's what sort of corporate writing is all about. So that's what I do for a living.
Well, that's a very good thing. If you need Nick to come and sort out your corporate writing and sell your company, he's the man. Where do we find you?
Where'd you find me?
On socials. How can people get in touch?
Well, obviously, I barely do socials because I'm over 30. No, I mean, look.
Well, you're here on You're on Facebook.
I'm on Faceake. Yeah, I'm on Faceake.
Yeah, Faceake.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Live. You can dig me out at Nick Salfeld on LinkedIn. So that's SAALFELD. The great thing about this is an important thing, right? When we were kids, and this is very much for our generation, right? When we were kids, and it's not the case now. When we were kids, having an odd name meant you got people took the mickey out of you, I mean, I've had many times where people can't be bothered to spell my name right. It really annoys me. British
Me
Airways.
too, and I've got the shortest name in the world.
Right, really annoying. Right now, and yet, the great thing in the internet era of having a weird name is my name is always available. I don't have to be Nick Salfeld 1479. I'm always just me. It's brilliant. Having an odd name has gone from being terrible to being fantastic. Really like that.
Actually, and subversely, because of my name, I seem to hopped on the social media. I'd say bandwagon, but I seem to have been one of the first people that I know to get onto it, partly because of my job as a journalist and things like that. So I took all the Liz Sauls, and then it's other people who've had to do that. And the thing is, there are some quite well-known Liz Sauls. There's the Olympic cyclist Liz Saul.
Is there an Olympic cyclist Liz Saul?
There is an Olympic cyclist Liz Saul, and various other things. And clearly, they probably had the same frustration as all the John Smiths in the world. They're like, "Hang on, who's Saul?
Yeah.
Why is that?" And it's like, well, I got there first, you know.
Exactly right. So no, this is it. Have a weird name. Is by the way, hi Rob. Hope you're getting better. Hope you're on the mend. Because
Yes,
our Rob here has been in has been
yes.
in
Hi, Liz
hospital.
and Nick.
Hope
Is
you're all
that
right, mate.
various ailments. So yes, we wish you a
Yeah.
speedy recovery. Asa Don Brown may join us a bit later, so that's good as well. It may be after you've had to disappear. Graham is saying, having both children that are doctors, unless I'm half dead, they're not interested in any of my ailments. Oh, that's very sad.
That is that is what doctors are really good at. I mean, if you have a good bedside manner at work, there's a greater chance that you'll be an absolute nightmare at home. So that is my experience. Being called Eve Phantom
Eve,
is fantastic. That's a
yes.
great name, especially when it comes to Halloween. That is a great name. But
Well,
exactly being
exactly. I mean, this is the other thing that I've been busy with today is getting ready for Halloween. It's just over a week away. I decided, because now I'm in my house and everything, and I have been for a couple of months, so things are mostly where they should be. But I thought I'd have a Halloween housewarming because, I'm Scary Liz is my alter ego. So there we go. So because I had sort of quite short notice about today, I was running around. I had day off from the day job today, and I thought I'll get the invites out properly to the neighbours. I've done some really nice invites, the cards, and I designed it myself.
you
You've got
have
the
indeed.
digital version and all this
Yep,
sort of
yep,
thing.
yep.
Yeah. So I thought I'll get physical cards and put it very nicely and put it through the doors of all my neighbours. Well, I ended up rushing around like a nutter to get these cards out because I'm back to work tomorrow.
So I went for a run last night.
Oh,
Please
blimey.
don't be, I know, don't be over surprised. I'm trying to get a little bit fitter. Running most nights. So and I've got a sort of usual route, and I ran past I ran past actually it's a car spares shop.
Okay.
And on a corner, and they put up
Go on.
danger, do not cross, as
Oh.
part of their Halloween decorations.
Oh, okay.
Right, exactly, across the door. But they're actually quite well designed. And I thought, I wonder if people are actually going to not walk in because
Because
it hasn't
I
got
think there's a
skulls.
problem.
Yeah, it hasn't got skulls on it or anything like. There's nothing to sort of suggest that it's for Halloween. It just looks like it's a crime scene, and I feel quite sorry for them. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's a witch in the window as well, so I suppose that helps. But
Well,
yeah,
that seems to be okay. I mean, I've got some window decorations in my front window. I've got some glow in the dark pumpkins and ghosts and stars and things like that. I've got a spider with its web as well that's bright green.
nice.
I've got some Halloween bunting that's sort of black and orange and purple sort of thing, and I've got a purple ghost actually. Most people these days, and certainly on our street, everyone's got an outdoor light that comes on at night and stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
the design on our street is sort of like a cylindrical tube with a light underneath and a light on top. And so I've got this purple gauze and I've put it on the top of the light, and actually it looks like there's a ghost
Excellent. Well, hey,
by my
I tell you
window
what,
at night, which is brilliant. So the effect is better than I could have hoped for.
you know who really likes a bit of solar night lighting?
Oh, yes.
Our glorious leader who cannot be with us today because he's not very well, Mr. Neil Long. He
Ah,
he loves
yes.
a bit of
He loves
solar
the
night
solar
light.
lighter. Yes, you should see
Loves
his
a solar
garden at
night light.
night. It's
Yeah,
it's like it's like a Christmas. I
fairyland.
was going to say it's like a Christmas tree, but it's not. It's a lot of the Royal Horticultural Society gardens like Wisley, and there's various around the
Yeah,
country
yeah,
as
yeah.
Bridgewater and things like that near Manchester. In the wintertime, they have, like last year, it was called Glow, and it was basically a light show, and it was like Neil's back garden times 1,000, and it was
Oh, okay.
absolutely brilliant. And actually, knowing how much Neil likes, pretty night lights and solar
Mm.
lights that light up at night and all the rest of it, his is very pretty. It looks really good. It's done really well with it. But if you ever go to they do it every year now. But if you go to a Royal Horticultural Society Glow or Winter sort of trail, as it were. It's absolutely brilliant. A light show across the lake at Wisley, which is the one I went to this year. Last year, I should say, in the winter. Absolutely brilliant. Well worth having a look if you do like your light shows, but you're not so hot on Christmas. It's
Yeah,
very,
that's
very
that's
nice
fair enough.
indeed.
I am slightly disappointed, I have to say. Nobody so far has texted in and said, "Yeah, what's the point of having solar night lights? The sun won't be out, they won't switch on."
Because they're very intelligent, our audience, Nick, and they know that it gets
Totally.
its charge
Totally.
during the day and then it comes alive at night.
But I would have, for comedy purposes, I totally would have texted that in. I'm very disappointed. Very.
You'll have to text yourself. And thank you, everyone who's joined in and is watching with us today. I notice Ronnie is being very well behaved, which is always good as well. As my dearly departed Thomas used to come and try and join in my meetings during lockdown when we were mostly working from home. He would come and join in. He'd sit, depending on who was on the meeting, he'd sit very neatly and quietly and sort of look at a few people and give me a cuddle and then wander off. But whenever a particular person joined this meeting, he would turn his bum on the camera, which
Totally
is,
reasonable.
yeah, I mean, it's quite entertaining and amusing, but it was always a particular person and I could never say who it was. He hasn't quite got his bum going, has he? He was waving his tail earlier.
Yeah. No, he's just on duty. I have had people after a quarter of an hour of a meeting say, "Why have you got a model of a cat at your window?" And I'm like, "No, that really is that's actually my cat. He just sits there for hours watching the world go by."
Mm.
And it's not even the world go by because that that this is the back of the house, and that's the back garden. There's a terrace out there, and that's it. So unless something, I think he might be. I think he might be sort of, being security. I think he's on patrol.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's very useful. I mean,
yeah.
Thomas used to let me know very loudly when the bin wagon arrived, but that was always at 7:30 in the morning. So if I was
Oh,
home, I was
yeah,
still asleep.
yeah.
Yeah. He got very excited to let me know that the bin lorry was there.
Yeah, no, 7:30 is breakfast, so I just get assaulted.
Graham is on form today. He wants to know.
Oh, that's terrible.
I told you
That's
he's the resident
terrible.
comedian, Nick. I do apologise.
Oh,
Actually, I don't know why I'm apologising on his behalf. He wouldn't apologise for himself. I've got to say hello to Az, who's an old chum of ours. He's joined and he's come to say hello. Hello
It
to
was
you,
also,
Az.
happy birthday. I'm pretty sure it was Az's birthday recently.
Yes,
I may be going mad.
in the last couple of days, I think, actually. So, yes,
Yeah.
happy birthday
mate.
to Az.
Mm.
He's quite good on the old karaoke, is Az. Who's normally roped into it by Nick. And who was the other chap? There were three of you that all had scraggly long hair and basically looked the same. Mother from another, lover from another, brother from another. That's the one.
Yeah.
Before I cast aspersions on anyone, brother from another mother.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Yes, there was a third chap, and I can't remember his name now. I feel like really guilty about it.
Jamie. That was it.
Jamie. I'm sure it wasn't.
It wasn't Jamie. Are you sure it
No.
wasn't Jamie?
No, I'm sure.
Maybe Az can remember.
Nobody
but there were three of you who all looked the same.
Yes.
Got up and would sing grungy rock karaoke. So yes. Actually, I've made a discovery in my new neighbourhood, which isn't so new anymore, that there's some really good karaoke's. And not only that, I've got to say hello to a chap called Justin. I know a couple of Justins. This is SA Justin because he's originally from South Africa, and but I didn't realise, lives up the road from me. And the reason I now know this is because I went to a karaoke last week up the road from me. And he got up and sang something. And I was like, hang on, we used to work together. Hello.
Oh, that's good. So hang on, he's South African?
Yes.
Are you going to see him again soon?
Well, probably at karaoke. And if you come along as well, you can see him and all.
So this is a thing. This is my if I bequeath nothing to you today other than this is a thing, right? A South African thing called Babuti.
Babuti?
Babuti. Bobotie, right?
It sounds like biltong.
Well, I mean, it's meaty. It's very meaty. It's got a mincy base.
Honestly, so I wasn't far wrong.
No, get a Babuti recipe. It is The BBC Good Food one is really good.
Oh, I was going to say I use that anyway. So
It's
you
one
know.
of my favorite things. Oh my god, it's herby, spicy, herby, hot and
Oh,
spicy, and fruity all at the same time, and it's a South African recipe.
oh,
It's
that's good. That sounds like
oh,
a
it's absolutely
tangine as well, or harissa
there's
or something.
yeah, there's a bit of tagininess about it in that there's sort of fruitiness, but it's more just hot and spicy and fruity. Oh, it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. Go and get a babuti recipe. I'd never heard of it before a South African person told me, and it's one of my go-tos now.
Graham seems to think I was going to shake my babooty. Isn't that more what you do with your
Um,
alter
my alter ego,
your
shake your
alter ego,
booty.
shake your booty? We should explain that before anybody gets slightly offended. That your origins, like mine, are decidedly mixed from all
Yeah, yeah.
different
I'm allowed to
ethnic
say
and cultural. Yes,
I'm allowed to say
everywhere,
bad things about Arabian cultures
everybody.
because I've got a bit of it. Yeah, exactly, absolutely. But yes,
Excellent.
yeah,
But yeah, shake your booty arrives is from Nick and I years ago did a lot of charity work as DJs at Cancer Research UK relays.
yeah. And then
Um,
somehow I managed to bring a slightly racist overtone to it by.
Well, no, not at all. Because the thing is, we joined as a team
Oh
that was
dear.
organised by Louise, now Ashford, and she used to work for Cancer Research UK as well and help run these things. And she also started a team in memory of her mum, Marion. And so on one occasion, we were the A team, then we were the B team, then we were the C team, then we were the
Very
M
original.
team. And yes, and so we all decided to dress up as things beginning with that letter. And for whatever reason, you were an Arab sheikh when we dressed up
That's
as
my
which. I
alter
can't
ego.
remember which. Oh, you
That's
must have
my
been
alter
A, I
ego.
suppose. There we go. Fiona and I dressed up as bride and bridesmaid one year for the letter B because I was
Yeah,
one of her
yeah.
bridesmaids at her wedding.
And
Um,
Rob was the archbishop.
that's right,
In fact,
exactly.
no, he used the same costume because it was archbishop for A and then bishop for
Bishop for
B.
B. And then when it got to M, and I'm quite proud of this, I dressed up as the main character from my favourite film.
What, M for main character?
No, M for
Right.
Marty McFly from Back to
Oh,
the
very good.
Future. Yeah.
Very good.
I even
Yeah,
borrowed my brother's skateboard, so that was quite cool.
that's class. That is
Yeah.
class. There's I've got a great YouTube recommendation for you.
Oh, yes.
There's a great it's so bad it's good. There's a guy called there's a sort of series on YouTube called Rocky Does Movies or Rocky Talks Movies, something like that.
Oh,
You'll
yes.
find it anyway. And it's just 20 facts about each movie, and some of them are quite interesting. What makes it wonderful is that Rocky's delivery is truly terrible. I mean,
Oh,
it
dear.
he's got the flattest delivery imaginable. It's so bad that it becomes good. It's a joyful thing. So you're sort of listening to Rocky talking about movies. In fact, you've got Van on in a minute, haven't you? You got to
Yes,
talk to Van.
indeed.
So Van is fabulous and wonderful and has great delivery. In fact, ask Van about Rocky Does Movies. He's probably seen it, but do check it out. Rocky Does Movies, little 5-minute segments, 20 fun facts about, and they've got one on Back to the Future. So do check it out because it's hysterical and his delivery is abysmal, but it makes it sort of worth it and wonderful in its own way. So there you go. So Babuti recipes and Rocky Does Movies. There you go. Those are my gifts to you today.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And I know you'll have to get going fairly shortly.
Yeah, I've got
Just
to
got
go
to
and
say
pretend to
hello
do
to.
work.
Yes. What do you mean pretend? You're
Well,
always
it's all
super
pretend.
busy.
Yeah.
We are very grateful for your company this lunchtime. Got to say hi to Brian and to Ray. They're at home. They've both got COVID. I know a couple of days ago he posted up. Thank you very much for listening in, and I wish you a speedy
Yeah. Thank
recovery
you.
from
Get well
COVID.
soon. Yeah.
Mm. And
I
COVID
mean,
is still a thing, you
no,
know.
everybody's just. I think I treat it like a tax now. You got to pay your COVID tax. It's like, oh, got me COVID. All right, I have to do it for this year. You have to. It's like paying your taxes. It's going to come along, and you got to do it. And so you feel a bit miserable for a bit, and eat lots of nice things.
Yes, I felt a bit of a fraud. The one time that I knew I had COVID, I had it for about 6 days. And I started testing because, and this was a couple of years ago now, that Neil got it. And I was staying at his at the time because I was moving house and all the rest of it. Um, and he got it. So I immediately, I was like, oh, it's better start testing. I was negative for the 6 days after he got it. But in that time, I'd had quite a lot of plans, but because I was still testing negative, I didn't have to cancel those plans. The trouble is, by the time I did test positive nearly a week later, I'd been everywhere. I'd been to Belgium. I'd been to someone's leaving do. I'd been to my dad's house. I'd been
You're
to a
patient
friend's
zero.
house.
You're patient zero.
Yeah, it was very bizarre. And somebody was like, oh, you must have got it from Neil. And I was like, well, no, actually, I could have got it from anywhere. I had to go on the tube to go to work, and things like that. And it's ridiculous. And I said, the reason I say I feel like a fraud is because I've had worse colds. I had a bit of a
Well,
sniffle,
yeah.
and that was it.
Sometimes
And you
that's it.
think, oh,
Sometimes you get
whereas I
lucky.
feel so sorry for people, it absolutely floors them. It's awful. Like a really bad flu, or they can't raise their head, they've got terrible headache, and all the rest of it.
Well, for what it's worth, I was negative right the way through, as in just a miserable person.
Very
Hey,
good.
you're welcome. Right, I'm out of here. Mwah. Take care.
Excellent. Lovely
Bye.
to see you.
You
Take care.
too. Cheers, all.
Well, thank you very much to Nick for that. And as he said, we have Van Connor coming along in a few minutes' time. And hopefully we shall be able to chat to him as well. Find out. I want to know, actually, I mentioned Halloween and I'm sort of getting ready for Halloween. I'm having my neighbours over on Halloween itself and having a bit of a housewarming at the same time because my neighbours, bless them, they've been very patient. I bought this house a year and a half ago and spent the best part of a year doing the renovations because it was very interesting. When I first saw the house, I thought, you look at these things online now, everything happens online. And you see these things and you think, well, it looks all right. That's quite a good price. No inside pictures, which when you're looking at a property these days, you want to see some of the photos, and you're trying to, improve your green footprint. And you don't want to just go and look willy-nilly at houses that are not going to be suitable at all. So I eventually contacted her because I kept going past this house online and contacted the estate agent and said, look, it looks quite interesting. It might be appealing, but can you send me some inside pictures? Because I want to know the layout of it. Not really getting a vibe just from the, just from the, just from looking at the dimensions and things. I want to actually see what I'm looking at. So they did send me some pictures and I thought, oh, okay, it's really dated. They'd said it needs modernisation. Boy, did it need modernisation. There was a lovely lady lived here until she died. She was 96, bless her. And where I am, people don't tend to move house, and these particular houses don't come up on the market very often. But she'd lived here for the best part of 40 years, perhaps longer, I think, nearly 50 years. These houses are about 50 something years old. So, and so I looked at it. I decided to go and see it in person. And I thought, you know what, it's got potential. It was very, very dated. There was no proper heating. There were these sort of, and I'd never seen them before. You get these vents. Well, you probably don't now, but I'd never seen it before. You get these vents that are in the skirting board of a house, and that's apparently heating. The boiler had been condemned. There were big notices all over it and things like that. So I'm thinking, right, it's going to need rewiring and it's going to need a whole new boiler system and gas central heating. There were no radiators either, so that was fun. And no central heating at all. That was what passed for central heating, Brian. And that's what I now have. It's brilliant. It's lovely. And a combi boiler and everything works perfectly. The whole place the walls needed replastering. One of the ceilings needed replastering as well. And it's painted throughout. I brought my dad to have a look at it because he used to work and run his own electrical company. So did my grandfather. He's passed away. But I said to Dad, will you come and look at this house? I think it's got potential. I'm fairly certain it needs rewiring and everything else. So he came and had a look and he said, yes, it needs rewiring. It needs this, that and the other, in the very sage advice that only dads can give to their eldest children. And he said, but if you can get it for the right price, then go for it. I've never renovated a whole house before or had someone do it for me. And it ended up being a huge project, but my goodness, it was worth it because, as I say, I've got this, it was like I had a blank canvas. So I've got everything how I want it. I designed the kitchen myself, much to the builder's horror, I think, because they were sort of like, do you want a black kitchen? Do you want it all dark, cupboards and everything's? Isn't that going to be too dark? And I said, no, because I've got a big kitchen window and I've got white goods that are actually white. So it works. I love it. It looks brilliant in the kitchen. Loads of cupboard space as well. Big cupboards for my big plates. Anyway, I'll stop waffling about how I've settled in nicely to my house and it's all very good. And I'm going to bring on my next guest that I can see has appeared. Welcome to the Midday Show, Van Connor. Hello, Van. How are you?
Hello, Liz. It's always my pleasure, you know.
Yes, exactly. Now, I don't know. I'm looking at my screen, which is very small. It looks like you've got Halloween decorations where you're sitting, or is that just something?
Just how I got.
No, it could be the shadows, but in the sort of top corner of your screen, just there.
I think that's just hats. I think that's just spooky looking hats.
Oh, okay. Well, it's good. 'Tis the season. How are you? Tell us about you. What do you do? I've described you as a funny man and film critic.
You did. Film critic, funny man, which I really like as a description. I mean, it's not as fun as my one. I genuinely tried to get Talk TV to put Popcorn Pimp as my at one point, but apparently it wasn't acceptable for live television. But
well, almost anything goes here. Just don't be rude about people, and you can even have a bit of a swear if you want. Russ allows that too. So now Nick mentioned that you could talk to us about Rocky, about this terrible critic.
A terrible critic? What, on a Rocky movie?
No, not on a Rocky movie, but the critic is called Rocky, and he's very deadpan, and you would know all about him, apparently.
I have never encountered the individual in question. I have no idea of whom you speak. But to be fair, I'm not really plugged into it. I don't really bond that much with all the other film critics because I'm sure you and I have had this conversation like, off mic in the real world. With some the majority of other film critics I tend to refer to as cardigans. Like I have this two kinds of people in the film critic world. There's cardigans and hoodies, and I, by coincidence, am wearing a hoodie at this moment. But it tends to scripter for me. So cardigan would be like a boring ass broadsheet film critic who, will give The Flash 3 stars and then Extraction 1 star in the same week. Whereas a hoodie will tend to have a personality and enjoy movies for what they are and enjoyment. Cardigan, however, will not give a film of the time of the day unless, it's in black and white, it's 3 hours long, it's French, it's subtitled.
Oh gosh.
People in black and white, a couple sat over a dinner table chain smoking, boring stuff that nobody's ever going to pay to see. It's part of the reason film criticism is a dying industry.
Well, you'll be pleased to know that our resident screen queen, who turns up on a Friday with Russ, is not a cardigan lady. She's called Chantel Richards, OBE, if you don't mind, as well. And she's very entertaining as well. I recommend you also get her weekly suggestions. Now, I did look up a couple of hers. There was something called The Penguin when I was last co-hosting with Russ, and she was on a few Fridays ago. Have you seen The Penguin? This is a TV series that's going on Sky.
I did. It's on Sky Now TV now. It's an HBO Max series, and it's a spin-off of the Batman. I talked about. I forget that you weren't there. You weren't producing over at BBC at the time. I covered this with Babs a few weeks ago, and it's Colin Farrell's character from the Batman. Basically, a week after the events of the film, carrying on. It's very good. It's infinitely better than the Batman. It has to be said. I mean, the Batman is not a movie. It's just. I'm kind of sick to death of Batman and never need to see the character ever again. But I mean, the idea of the Penguin series is it's like the struggle for power between the mafia families in Gotham. Like after Batman and the Riddler have kind of topped most of them in the movie, and it does kind of go some way as to we've had like 5 episodes of this now. It's really good. It's like Sopranos level good. Although I do find myself questioning, and I have to ask some Batman fans this: would this not be the most absentee Batman we've ever had, given that in the 5 episodes of this show, the body count is in the double digits, and we've not seen a Batman once?
That's slightly worrying that he might be slightly absent, the Batman in the Penguin. I've actually quite enjoyed it, and as I say, it was a recommendation from Chantal, who Russ has very kindly given another plug to there. And she's absolutely brilliant. She's not either of the descriptions that you've given Van at all, as we were saying. And she doesn't normally like horror. And I'd be inclined to agree with her, because I don't like gratuitous horror at all. But I find this quite fascinating. And I only started watching it because my mum's favourite animals are penguins. So I thought, I know it's a Batman character as well back in the day, but I found it very interesting to watch it. Another one, actually, of a similar genre, perhaps, is something called Sweet Pea, which is on Sky Atlantic. Have you managed to catch up with that?
I have not. It's because I have a few weeks off from Babs at the moment, so it kind of cuts down my TV viewing. So I only really watch it. Go on BBC and talk about it. That's the only time I'll ever watch a TV series. And otherwise, my TV shows tend to be quite a boring list. You know what I mean? Like I'm watching Tulsa King at the moment. I'm looking forward to the last season, the final season of Star Trek Lower Decks is this next week. I have just managed to sort of convert my partner into a full-blown Doctor Who fan, which is my
Whovian. Is that what they're called? Whovians?
Whovians, yes. I have managed to make her a Whovian because I'm an absolute as well. I introduced.
There's nothing wrong with a classic like Doctor Who. I really appreciate the way it's sort of been revised by Russell T Davies in recent years, because the sort of what I would say are classic episodes from the 70s and 80s and things like that, they used to be quite scary. You look back at them now, though, and you think, oh, gosh, I don't know what was appealing about that. But he sort of appealed it to a whole new generation. What do you make of the current incantation, as it were?
Well, I'm a big fan of it. It's Russell T Davies, who incidentally I was in a room with once and didn't realise until the last possible second, so I didn't get to talk to him. He was sat directly.
Oh no!
He sat directly in front of me at the premiere for Avengers Endgame, I think, and I was so taken by the movie that when we were on the way out, I'm just focused on the movie. I don't focus on Russell T Davies in front of me. But he has been very upfront all along since 2005 now that the template for modern Who, or New Who as we call it, is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's the actual template that he literally replicated in the way that it's structured, the way they have the big bad sewn throughout the season. Even the level of writing in it is very distinctly Joss Whedon, up to and including the fact that they both draw from the same other source materials, like they have the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier from the Marvel universe, kind of in Doctor Who now, and it was obviously Joss Whedon made the Avengers, and I'm a big fan of it. Faith, who I've recently managed to sort of convert to all this, occasionally has to stop me and go, wait, this is a kid's show? Like children? There's some dark stuff in there.
Oh yeah. And you had that with Batman as well, though, because that started life as a cartoon, didn't it? And now, as I say, I only really got into Batman. I think the first film I watched properly was Batman Forever. And that was because Chris O'Donnell was in it. And I really love Chris O'Donnell. I watch him in NCIS LA now as well. In fact, I've got a series record on that. So, I'm a big Chris O'Donnell fan. But see him in Batman Forever as Robin, it was like, oh.
Chris O'Donnell is one of those actors. I cannot figure out where it didn't happen for Chris O'Donnell. I have watched NCIS LA because of LL Cool J. I have this weird little obsession with LL Cool J. Yeah,
he's good in it as well.
I discovered that his name literally is an abbreviation of Ladies Love Cool James. And I'm calling bullshit because nobody at school has ever had the nickname. No. Like, kids are mean. They're never calling another kid LL Cool J because ladies love cool. No. But
it was probably said once and then it's kind of become a thing, as in not the abbreviation, the full Ladies Love Cool James,
I do a similar thing. Every now and again, Mark Kermode will refer to me as his Tony Stark. And I now go out of my way to try and sort of trick him or manipulate him into doing it. And then say when someone asks.
Now, here's an interesting theory from Brian. If Doctor Who can become a woman, then maybe Batman became the Invisible Man, and that's what we're watching, or not.
I mean,
That's
I would
the
say
case.
Batman did become the Invisible Man because, as I say, I'm sick of the sight of him. I'm really glad that the next DC character coming down the pipeline is going to be Superman, because Superman might be the most underappreciated character in all of fiction these days. Bearing in mind the last version we had, and we're talking about how, you know, things that start as children's things become inappropriate as they get older. The idea that we live, what, 11 years past a Superman movie where he's snapping necks amidst a 9/11 that he himself caused. Yeah, I'm all for the new, because we've got a new one coming next July. We've got a
Yes.
full new Superman, part of a whole new universe. It's bright, it's colourful, it's got
Do we know who's playing Superman? I can't remember. Have they announced it?
A relative unknown. He had a supporting role in Twisters this past summer, and he looks the part.
Say his name again. I missed that.
It's David Corenswet is his name.
Oh, okay.
And he was quite a skinny thing when they cast him, and he's bulked now. We've seen him in the costume.
I think you need to, really, because otherwise you end up with a Superman that actually looks more like Banana Man.
Well, it's weird now, because I just saw a clip on TikTok this morning of the 90s when we had Lois.
Yes, the TV series, Dean Cain.
Being a kid when that was on, and I remember my mum making lewd comments about Dean Cain. Bear in mind, it was the 90s. Dean Cain was a very different person in the 90s. He hadn't discovered the Republican Party or Donald Trump back then. But back when Dean Cain was like an actual heartthrob, my mum would make comments. I remember thinking that he was an incredibly buff dude. It's very strange when you see him now, and he looks kind of average. As Superman, he kind of just looks like a, you know, relatively well-physiqued dude, not necessarily like a buff Henry Cavill type, but Superman was achievable in the 90s.
Yes.
So now.
So what are you watching at the moment? Where are you saying you've got a couple of weeks off from some of your radio and TV appearances, but what are you watching? What would you recommend we go and see with the Halloween season and stick season upon us?
What I can tell you, and it's previewing on Halloween night, but it's actually opening the following day, opening on November 1st. And I had the pleasure of seeing this last night. Is a new horror movie starring, of all people, Hugh Grant.
Oh.
It's called, and Hugh Grant is a middle-aged man in a cardigan, because all the worst people in the world wear cardigans. Pair of specs, grey hair, really uglied him up, so to speak, and he is just this lunatic, sort of very hyper intelligent lunatic who locks two Mormon girls in his house and torments them to try and get them to question their faith. And it's really something. I saw this last night, and it doesn't go as hard as you want it to, but it's really fun and really twisted, and we had a ball. There was a lot of laughing. It was one of those horror movies you laugh at the sadism of it. I really enjoyed that. Another one I watched, and this is one of those so bad it was good kind of ones. And this one's out on Friday, and this is a movie. It's the new one from A24. Heretic is an A24 movie as well. So I watched two A24 movies in 2020.
Oh, wow.
One was vastly better than the other, it has to be said. But the one that's out this Friday, the weaker of the two, but also strangely funnier, is a movie called The Front Room, and it stars Brandy. You remember Brandy?
Yeah. And in fact, didn't one of her songs feature in Batman Forever, I think?
It entirely may have done.
Let's go and think about that now. Yes, carry on.
I'll be honest with you. I thought Brandy was a crap actress in the 90s, and I'm happy to be able to report that has not changed in 2024. She is exactly.
Oh dear, that's harsh.
Starts in this psycho thriller where she's a heavily pregnant mum,
right?
Wife, and the father-in-law dies, and one of the conditions of his will is, I'll leave you all this money if you move the stepmom in with you. And the stepmom is this hyper religious. There's a lot of religion going on in cinema this Halloween. Very religious Halloween for cinema. But yeah,
Halloween is kind of based on Wiccan and paganism, so there are religious heritages to it. So
indeed. But in the case of this movie, it's a lot of Christianity. So it was Mormonism in the Hugh Grant one, Christianity in the Brandy one.
Right.
It stars British theatre actress Catherine Hunter as Solange. Just say ambiguous, somewhat visually racially ambiguous, evil step who moves in and just starts preaching and taking the place over and going full Hamlet rocks the cradle on it. It is I cannot recommend highly enough. It's a terrible movie, but it's one of those so bad it tips over into good because you just cannot stop laughing at it. And the performance from Catherine Hunter is so wonderfully over the top. Like, she absolutely steals the movie minute for minute. There's not a single minute of the movie that Catherine Hunter is not just outright owning. And she's there with the two canes, like cripply hobbling across the room. And she's got this voice.
You feel like you shouldn't laugh at it, but you are.
But she goes so hard in on it, and it's very obvious that the script isn't taking it seriously. That you just take it as a comedy.
I like that, because the thing about Hugh Grant is, I mean, he's meant to play. He plays one of the baddies in Paddington, which is a family movie and a kids' movie. We've talked about various things that started off as kids' films, and he's evil in it, but he's also funny. I mean, Hugh Grant has a certain, whatever character he plays, there's the Hugh Grantism shines through. So actually, I quite like a bit the idea that you're selling us dark humour for Halloween. That suits me. That I'll go with that.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, I came out of Heretic last night, and I said to my friend Sarah, like, if there was ever going to be a movie about a charming British man who goes to the US and imprisons hyper religious people, to get them to give it up, I'm just depressed it wasn't me. But
oh, that's absolutely brilliant. Van, I know you have to run. Thank you so much for your recommendations and for joining us on the Midday show this afternoon, and hopefully we can welcome you again very soon.
My pleasure anytime. But I almost called you Babs. My pleasure anytime.
Oh, well, that's all right. I think I should explain for people who don't always listen to BBC local radio is that you can catch Van Connor on lots of different mediums, but very often he's doing BBC in the East, which includes 8 counties: Essex, Herts, Beds, Bucks, Suffolk, Norfolk and Cambridge and Northampton, on Babs Michelle's programme, and that's on a Tuesday and Wednesday night, normally from 6, and a weekend breakfast, so Saturday and Sunday from 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. and you will hear Van Connor, particularly on a Saturday is when I normally catch you because I'm reading the news, and other BBC, and I think you're on GB News as well, aren't you?
For my sins, occasionally.
There you go. Excellent.
Also.
But look him up, Van Connor, and to get some very brutal but entertaining and irreverent movie reviews. Thank you so much for joining us today.
But yeah, my absolute pleasure, Liz. Until the next time.
Take care. Thank you very much to Van. And as I say, thank you for joining me today. Very last minute, if you have joined in the last few minutes. Russ, who doesn't normally do Wednesday anyway, but he's doing his other main job as a funeral celebrant. But he's managed to duck in and say hello this afternoon as well. I'm also delighted in the last sort of 10 minutes or so that we've got left to welcome another huge supporter of our show, Dr. Asa Don Brown. Good afternoon to you, Asa. Good to see you.
You as well. How is it over there?
Do you know what? It's not bad. It hasn't rained for at least a day and a half, which, you know how British people love to go on about the weather or the terrible weather, but today is okay. So that's good. And how about you? Remind us, you're in northeastern America or Canada, is it?
Right.
I'm not quite sure which.
New York State. So I relocated here from British Columbia to live in New York State at the moment.
Excellent.
So, and I'm just told, so from my voice, I might sound a little bit like The Godfather, but
Oh, bless you. It probably sounds a bit like Neil's at the moment, which is the reason why Neil Long isn't here this afternoon. He's got a streaming cold. I call it man flu. He's feeling very sorry for himself, so I'm sure he's lurking as well. But Asa, thank you very much for joining us. And we have sort of been talking about a little bit about horror movies and Halloween. We're in stick season, as it were. But there's a slightly more serious message to this. And I know that you as a psychologist will be able to just sort of talk us through perhaps some tips as to how, for this time of year, people are sort of thinking, do you know what? The days are getting shorter. The weather's getting rubbish. And it's not very good for the mood. It's not very good for the soul or the mental health. So how can we cheer ourselves up a bit? What sort of things can we do? I mean, I personally like Halloween, but as much as the next person, you don't like these dirgy days either.
No, of course not. And you're well aware of seasonal affective disorder. Living
Yes.
where you're at, I'm sure it's quite prominent. I know in Seattle, Washington, when I lived in Seattle, Washington, we had a number of cases of folks with seasonal affective disorder. And, but you don't have to live in an area that is bombarded by rain or snow. I mean, where I lived in Canada, um, it's funny, but we would have about 3 months of sunlight or growth,
Oh,
and
wow.
the rest of the year was snow and winter. -20 was average Celsius, and I've seen -40, -50 Celsius. And so, it does take a toll on an individual, including myself. There were times that I had to adjust to that because I am originally from the States, lived in Canada almost 20 years, and moving up there from Colorado, which was winter, but it didn't have the long winter days that we had in Canada. And those long days can really play a number on your mind. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Insomnia with Robin Williams.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
That can play on your mind, actually.
Get laid on mine very much so. And what I have always told my patients in the past is that, if you're facing something like this, I mean, there are a number of things you could do script wise. There are a number of things you can do, even technologically. You can get a light machine. You can do, I would recommend the best thing for you is to get outside. Even in the winter, even in the rainy days, get outside, get a little vitamin D, even if it's a little, take some vitamin D. But more than anything, take care of yourself. Find ways
Yes.
to enjoy the moment. And it's funny because I have witnessed so many patients that when they're in that cycle, they tend to go with that cycle, and they tend to become distraught. They tend to become bombarded by their emotional feelings and that downturn rather than trying to find an up way. And so I highly recommend that if you're feeling lethargic, if you're feeling the blues, for instance, excuse me, my phone. Turn that off. I'm sorry about that. If you're feeling
That's
the
okay.
blues, it's important that, I mean, we all know what cheers us up.
Yes.
All of us, we all know.
And it doesn't have to be sort of, big, expensive gestures. It can be little things to cheer yourself up as well.
And certainly, I have 3 children, Liz, and my eldest, my wife and I, well, we've been married 27 years. I have a
Oh, wow.
20-year-old. We delayed it a little bit, and a 13-year-old, and 11-year-old. And, for me, if I'm feeling low, now I may not share that with my children, but kids know. They know. Instinctually, they know. But more than that, even if they don't know, find that person that brings you comfort. Ask for a hug or reach out and give a hug. It's amazing what a hug, even thinking about it, brings me joy.
Yes.
And and if you don't have children, if you have a partner or someone else that's special in your life, do the same. Sometimes there was an old commercial in the States and in Canada years back that said, reach out and touch someone. I believe it was a TNT commercial. And a
I think
phone
it was a
company.
song as well. Reach out and
It was.
touch someone's hand.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, it's amazing what that can do for a person. It's just simply pick up that phone. Of course, we no longer have corded phones hardly, but pick up that corded phone and have a conversation with the person that lifts you up. One thing that I find common with patients is they, rather than doing that, and with a lot of people, they go to the individual that brings them down rather than find the
Yes.
person
And that's the thing, and we shouldn't be afraid to ask for help. Asking for help is a big step forward from asking for a hug and just saying, do you know what, I feel a bit crap today. Can I just have a hug? Because a hug does the world of good. I say that to my closest friends, and actually we do. We hug each other. And it's something my mum and my grandma are always like, come on, have a hug. And it was a very noisy hug. We'd be like, like this, and make a big joke of it. But we still did it, and it does. It's a simple thing, but it lifts your mood.
Right.
I've got to say hello to Graham Pack for you. He says it's good to see Asa on the screen. Graham also with his, as I say, resident funny man, which might rival Neil, but you know, to cheer us up, what's the best way to scare any children that might come trick or treating? There we are, trying to give tips to cheer yourself up, and that's what he wants to know. How can I cheer? Graham wants to cheer himself up by scaring children.
Well, you know, I'll be funny here for a second. You know, give him a list of Graham Pack's text from the shows. I'm kidding.
Yes.
Joke. Sorry, Graham.
That's a very good comeback, actually. He also goes on to say, what cheers me up is being with my two granddaughters, whether it's taking them to nursery or going to breakfast and a play group every Friday morning with the 3-year-old. You see, you can do serious too, and that's a nice thing to do.
Right. And of course, and you know, it's funny. A few years ago, well, during COVID, I had a call from Canadian Broadcasting Network, or the Canadian Broadcasting Company, I guess it is, CBC, and they asked that I write an article on Halloween and how it was going to look at that time. Also, a radio show with them, and so I did. And you know, it's funny because while we've come out of COVID, thankfully, we still have some of that lingering angst that comes with COVID and that comes with these sort of times of uncertainties globally. And so parents are a bit heightened, their awareness and their stress levels. And so I would say the best thing is, you know, if you don't feel safe in going out and about, and I know people around the country and Canada both that say they're not going to take their children out in their communities because of a sense of safety, is, you know, make it a special day, make it a special event, you know, bring friends together. You know, I have no more joy than to have friends over to my house. And,
Same here.
you know,
Same
yeah,
here. And I was saying that earlier, actually, that because I have only been in my house a couple of months, that actually I'm having my neighbours over for a Halloween housewarming. So that'll be quite good as well.
Very nice. Well,
Brian is answering Graham directly, saying, dress up yourself when you answer the door. Do you know what? I do that. I dress up for Halloween, and then the kids come round and I'm like, hello. And they're like, whoa. But it's quite good around here and in previous places that I've lived, that everyone does literally get into the spirit of it, but it's all very good natured. And I think that's important as well.
Yeah, we do here as well. And, you know, and it's, you know, I think it's important to express yourself and to be able to be just someone maybe you're not, someone that you feel that's an inner personality, and allow that to come alive. You know, I love dressing up. I really do. And, you know, I've been everything from, well, maybe I shouldn't say some of those, but, you know, I've dressed up in all sorts of
Feel free. You know, we're very sort of free and easy and non-judgmental on this program, Dr. Asa.
But no, you know, it's you know, Mick Jagger one time, you know, I don't have the height, you know, and I definitely don't have the lips, but, you know, you know,
you could buy fake lips. They do those. I don't know about there, but here they do these sort of gummy type sweets of giant lips. You could have just stuck one of those to your face.
That's true. That's very true. You know, I think, you know, we one thing that I have found in my life, you know, and for my patients, is that if we can get back to that inner child, and Halloween brings about that inner child, we lose that inner child along the way. And that inner child brings joy. I mean, they're gregarious. Children are gregarious. They're resilient. And many people are no longer resilient as they age. They're less resilient, less gregarious. They're less just willing to be flamboyant. And, you know, it's funny to watch my children as they've aged and how their maturity changes them. And I keep pushing them to be silly,
Mm.
to be, just to have fun with the day. And, it doesn't have to be Halloween to have fun.
I was
And
going to say the other thing that we have is that Halloween is getting bigger in the UK. It's always been a huge thing in the US. I've been to the US quite a few times, as has Graham, as he mentions here. But equally, it doesn't have to be expensive either. Going into the sort of autumn and winter period, we have these things like it can get very expensive. People worry about having to spend money at Christmas and things. It doesn't have to be expensive at all, does it? And we should. I want to try and sort of banish that kind of myth that you have to spend loads at Christmas in order to be happy, in order to try and keep the winter blues at bay. It's just not true, is it?
it's not. And, some of my favorite gifts are gifts. In fact, my favorite gifts are gifts that people have made. They put their own self into. I had a patient who has now passed away, unfortunately, but I had a patient make me this level, and it's bent, by the way.
Mm.
And it says psychologists keep you level even when you're a little bent. And I've got it on my wall
I
in my
love that.
office. Yeah. And what a gift. I mean, I seldom would accept, especially if they're purchased gifts. I always have a little bit of hesitation with that or reservation, but gifts like that bring such joy. My funniest gift was once that I had a patient in Edmonton, Alberta, and this patient, he was a child. This child brought in some cookies. Well, I watched the
Oh,
child, and as he took it out, he'd been doing this. And, you know, you know what I mean? And he took the cookie and
yes.
handed
Oh,
it to
yes.
me, and I thought, "Oh, no, I can't do this." But I'm going to accept it because it's the gesture, it's the
Yes.
thought. And I mean, he had the runny nose, the whole thing, not to gross you, out, but it was just funny.
Yeah, kids will be kids. That's okay.
Kids will be kids, but the accepting of that, I know for a fact that it does my heart well when someone accepts something I give them. I know for this child, who knows what this child felt when I accepted his gift and later tossed it. But hopefully he's not watching this.
I was going to say, how old is he now? 45.
But no, I'm kidding. But anyways, it's one of those things that, and I've actually had that a couple of times, that children
Mm.
bring these sort of gifts and they do these sort of things. And it in my own children, I just had a birthday the other day in September, and my children made some shirts. They took some old shirts that they had as young children, and and toddlers, and they wrote messages on these shirts. No, I never would have thought that. I never would have even considered that. One is a sleepy and talks about having a bad day, and and bringing the sunshine and that kind of thing. And my son wrote on
That's
that one.
lovely.
It was, and so now I have these two shirts to cherish. I never would have considered that, but it's those thoughtful ways bring me the most joy. And I think for most people, we're honest.
Mm.
A purchase gift doesn't bring happiness. And, we're all trying to compete with the Joneses, but we need to stop trying to compete with the Joneses. We need to stop or
No.
whomever. We need to stop competing with everyone and start living our lives and making the most out of it and doing unto
Because never
others.
mind what the Joneses are doing, we have to do what makes us happy. And
We
it
have
could
to do
be,
what we
putting nice messages on old clothes for your birthday, or a hug, as you mentioned before. It's about the little gestures, because who knows what a mood lifter a little gesture can be for someone who might not see anyone else that day.
That's right. And it's funny, I look back on people that I've lost in my life, and it's those little times. I try not to look on the loss. I try not to remember, my mind isn't geared to focus on the day they passed. Rather, I'm trying to look at the life they lived. And, I was in New York City on January 2nd, 2002, and there for business and to work with folks. And the focus, the buildings were still smoldering, and that continued until May. But I was there in the midst of it all. In fact, I had an opportunity to go ground zero, and there was no one there. And at that time, it was very early in the morning. And I
Mm.
stood there with some folks, and, you know, still to this day, it just rings my heart, but it's those sort of times that we need people to embrace us. We need people to come to us, and we forget about all the material, what we consider necessities,
Yes,
and leave them
because
aside.
COVID was a good reset in some ways and not in others. As
Right.
Graham alluded to earlier, there are still people who wear masks and are afraid to interact with people, and that's not necessarily a good thing either.
And it's not, and we see that here where I live, and it's unfortunate because they're living in a constant fear. They're not living life actually.
Mm.
They're living in fear, and to live life means you're free of fear. And I know a lot of people question whether that is a possibility, but I believe it is. And I think that yes, we may have fears along, but I say challenge those fears. Look at those
And make
fears
the most of it.
and make the most of it. Be damned to those fears,
Oh,
and
yes.
move forward. I had a patient once that I've had a couple patients with this particular issue. They had fears of bridges, and I had this patient. He's given permission to share this story, but he had a fear of bridges because he had a car wreck, and his car went off the bridge. He survived this situation,
Mm. Oh, thank
and
goodness.
thank goodness, yes. But it took a long time for us to work through that fear, and it's a possibility. And it's funny. I hear from him every so often. He thanks me and he tells me that, that today he doesn't struggle with that fear that he struggled with for so long, and that he realizes that we allow the complexity of our fears to become what we're doing in essence is we're identifying with the fear. We're
Mm.
identifying with the issue. Rather than identifying with who we are, we identify with the issue and we become that issue. And it's not unlike a lot of things in life. I had a good buddy that was a firefighter that was injured, and he told me one day that I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got his permission to share this, but I don't
Mm.
know what I'm going to do. He says I can no longer be a firefighter. I don't know what I am anymore. I said, well, you are who you are, naming, giving him his name. You're that person. This was a part of you. This was not you. This is not your identity. You're more
Mm.
than a firefighter. And, and I see that a lot because I am a volunteer firefighter, by the way, as well.
I remember you
And,
saying before. And
yeah.
actually, it's a nice thing to do, but it's not your sum total. Firefighting and volunteering is really good, but you do it because you're a good person, you're a kind person, you're all these other things put together, and you're a great psychologist as well. Thank you, Dr. Asa, for taking the time at very short notice to come and chat to us.
Well, thank you. And, I always enjoy interacting with you, Liz. You're such a delight. So thank you.
No, thank you very much. And thank you for coming on. Alexis, very quickly before we wrap up, because we're well over time for a change, but hey, that's how we roll on the midday show. We can roll along a bit longer. Alexis says, oh my God, have I missed this? Well, you popped up about 10 minutes ago, but don't worry, you can watch it back again once this live show has finished. Brian talking about COVID. He and his wife, Ray, have COVID. He says it doesn't feel that bad. It's more like the flu. I know that different people have different reactions. It's very strange in that way, how COVID has affected different people in different ways, Dr. Asa.
Well, it's funny, if you don't mind me sharing this quickly, is that when we had COVID, my family ended up with COVID in 2021. And boy, it went right through the whole house. And I didn't have the respiration. I didn't have the respiratory issues. I didn't have the cough and the cold and those sort of symptomologies. I ended up with what's called COVID toes. And so, and I know it's a rare thing, but I don't wish that upon anyone. I would rather not have it, but it's funny how it manifested for so many different people and how it seems to linger. I've got a buddy that, it lasted for a year and a bit, ended up with
Oh, wow.
COVID, long COVID. And, it's unfortunate, but, it's like anything. Even in the midst of something like that, pick up your bootstraps, I say, face the challenge, don't allow it to bring you down. And, and health issues tend to bring people down. So don't allow it to bring it down, but rather face the challenge, live in the moment. And, we don't know how much time we have. And
that's very wise words, Dr. Asa Don Brown. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And thank you to everybody who's joined the show at short notice. As I say, you can listen again. Russ Kane will be back on Friday. He will be here with our screen queen, I do believe, and other special guests as well. But in the meantime, thank you all for joining me and have a very good Wednesday afternoon. Take care.